Okay, this is a pretty famous novel, kind of a big novel. I think it's over like 500 pages or something. But anyway, this novel is about this guy called Augie March, and it is set during the Great Depression. So if you remember from the previous classes, Great Depression is 1929 to late 1930s. Generally, we say 1929 to 1939. Okay, that's the decade of Great Depression. This story is set in that time period. Describes this guy called Augie March, and then his growth from childhood to when he attains maturity. So if I think it was Afroz that mentioned last time, if I remember it correctly, but Afroz, this is where you can talk about innocence to experience, right? So he started with childhood, and then so it's also called a Bildungsroman novel. But anyway, Augie lives with his mom and his brother Simon in kind of sort of the rough parts of Chicago. Augie goes from one situation to another. He takes up multiple jobs. He takes up multiple women. He has tons of experiences in life. Now, this guy's life seems to be partly self-made. So he likes taking decisions for himself. He kind of sort of has a plan. And sometimes just comes around by chance. Okay, something happens and then he just gets surprised. So his life is like that. Sometimes he has a plan, sometimes he doesn't. Although his life kind of goes from one extreme to another extreme in this novel. He goes from rich to kind of rags and all in between very soon. At one extreme, he is kind of nearly adopted by a rich couple and is spoiled. And at the other extreme, he struggles for existence. He steals books and then he lends money to other people. He takes money from other people and everything. But anyway, this basically talks about this guy, and then how in the end, I won't tell the whole story, but then he gets involved with a string of different women. He has multiple women in his life. He gets dumped. Women break engagements with this guy. He goes through a lot of breakups and everything. Okay. A lot of stuff happens in this novel. And then basically the way the novel ends is this guy is somewhere in France getting involved in some kind of shady business deal. So he even though he gets to maturity level, he's not really settled, right? Quote unquote. He's still doing some kind of shady business. And then I think he marries a woman in the end, but then she's also doing some kind of non-normal, not normal kind of deals. But anyway, if you look at this novel, one thing you will notice is Augie starts off like a typical American hero, right? Or even a Bollywood hero, poor family, struggling and all. But his story doesn't end like a typical American hero story. A typical American hero story or a typical hero story ends where the hero is successful and, lives happily ever after, right? One theme that comes out repeatedly in this novel is search for self. Now, like I said, Augie has tons of experiences in this novel. There are like literally tons of experiences that he gets into situations, he gets out of situations and everything. What is he doing with all this? He basically searches for himself. Okay, that's one theme that comes out. He encounters multiple people, he encounters troubles, he quote unquote has adventures. That is why it's called Adventures. But in the title, takes up too many jobs, too many lovers and all. But he always escapes from all these in search of self. Okay, he doesn't stick at one place. He tries to form this identity for himself. Tries to determine his own fate. That's Augie. Okay. Now, it's not that Augie is not tempted by physical and mental temptations. He has all these temptations, but he resists these temptations, and then he does not become a slave for either of mental or physical temptations. Okay. Now, what does that mean? An automatic repercussion of this is alienation, right? Again, I think that is Afroz's favorite theme because she mentions it every time. So alienation, again, automatically comes out as a prominent theme, like we have seen in almost all other units. No. For Augie, the family kind of has lost its role in, when we say family, we'll have to be together and all. For Augie, the family has lost its role in togetherness of people. So basically what comes across, how it comes across is a man has to look for other ways to reconcile himself with what is going around him, with the world around him. He has to come across, or he has to find other ways to reconcile all this apart from family. Anyway, we will leave it at that. Your course book, I think, has a very small biography of Bello and lists more of his works. So my request is please take the time to go through it. Again, this is a very, very, very short unit, but a very, very important unit. That is why we left it until the end. And then I think the course book also talks about a little bit about Norman Mailer, and then they go on to Adrienne Rich. Okay, Adrienne Rich is a poetess. She passed away a few years ago. But anyway, by the time your book was written, she was still alive, I think. Anyway, take time to read through that. And then you, of course, know I'm part of that WhatsApp group. So you're more than welcome to ask questions in that group. And then I will respond as soon as I can. Okay. Okay, moving on. Okay, any questions so far from anybody? Okay, no questions. So what are the major themes of the assistant? This is answering questions from this unit. We usually, so I kind of sort of didn't like the format of, taking one class just about the examination. I mean, that just is stressful enough. So that is why we kind of restructured the course. And then we, if you remember, we do this answering questions from this unit every class so that, we just get rid of it while it is fresh in our mind. But anyway, what are the major themes of the assistant? We just talked about it. Guilt, deception, suffering, all these come out. Discuss the main themes of Jewish fiction. Now you'll have to remember the history that Lily has mentioned, plus the most important, not most important, but then the most horrific, if not anything else, part, that is the Holocaust. And then immediately you will get to the themes very easily. You can talk about, depression, unemployment, war, alienation, victimization, marginalization. All these themes are themes of Jewish fiction. And then by this time, I'm 100% sure that you all are experts at coming up with themes. You've done excellent in the previous classes. So I'm not even worried about this coming with these themes and all. You already all know about it. Okay. Recap questions. This is time for you to speak. Who wrote the assistant? Anybody?
Bernard Malman.
Okay, Malamud, very good. This will tell us how attentive you are on the slides. Herzog was written by who? Can anybody tell me who is the author?
Saul Bellow.
Okay, great. Saul Bellow. When did Saul Bellow win the Nobel Prize?
In 1976.
Okay, great. Okay, again, these questions are not questions that will come in your exam or anything. These are just fun questions that we have just to not test your knowledge, but just to make sure we are all on the same page. That's all. Okay.
So what is depressive novels and expansive novels, sir?
What is that?
Depressive novels and expansive novels. In page number 213, it is given, sir.
Okay, let me just very quickly open the book. Okay, I'm not 200 and which one of those?
213.
Oh, 213.
Yes.
Okay, for me, the way, I mean, I've not read the paragraph, but then you can probably,
It's depressive novels 1 and 2, sir, and 2 and 3. Depressive novels are given expansive novels.
Right. So I've not read the paragraph, but then looking at the names, right? Depressive novels are probably, depression has the
depression,
major,
yes.
It has it as the major theme in them.
Achha.
Okay, so there's, like it says, like violence, the Holocaust, and then everything. Those are, central to these depressive novels. It starts with depression, ends with depression, or the major theme is depression, basically there. Probably that. Now, expansive novels, again, like I said, right? Saul Bellow, even Malamud also, they don't just talk about, the bad stuff. They also give you some hope. They also basically say, while all this is happening, while the whole world is, for lack of a better word, going to hell, we still have some hope. I mean, it's not like, we will all have to just be depressed forever. Okay. That's probably the difference between depressive and expansive novel.
Yes. And here the last second para, sir, the gloom of the novels in the first category is somewhat offset by the joy of the novels of the second category. What does it mean, sir?
Yeah. So the first category is depressive novels, right?
Achha.
Gloom basically means, the sadness. Okay.
Hmm.
So sadness is the major theme of the first novels. So what basically they are saying is there are depressive novels, there are expansive novels. The sadness in the first category is kind of sort of offset by that hope in the second category. So like I just said, right? It's not just everything is sad. There is sadness, but then there is also hope, right?
Okay.
So that's what they are basically saying. The sadness in the first category is there, but then it is kind of sort of offset by this joy or the hope in the second set of novels.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions on what we have talked so far? Okay, we are already at 12:53. I didn't want to take a full class because, it is the last day, and then, I'm sure you people are really waiting to actually read the book. So if you don't mind, I will stop it here. And then what I will do is I will very quickly go through what we have done in this course. Okay. That is just a recap. I'm not going to go through, individual topics, but then just the side headings or whatever you call them. And then if we have to go into something in specific, then we can go. Is that okay with everybody? Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we started this course with is an introduction. Okay, that's your block one. What we started with are the major themes. And for those of you, I can see most of you have attended the previous classes, but I also see a couple of new names. So for those of you who have not attended the previous classes, my suggestion is read the first chapter, first block, end to end, multiple times. Why? Because this is the heart and soul of this whole course. Okay, I will repeat it. I've repeated it multiple times, but if you are perfect in these three units, unit 1, 2, and 3, which is introduction and the major themes, and then, Age of Reason, Revolution, and the Romantic Age, but more so the first unit, introduction, and then the major themes, rest of the course is basically looking at a story and then relating it to these themes. Okay. So please be perfect in unit 1. That's very, very important. Then what we did is we moved to fiction in block 2. We talked about what is fiction. And even in block 1, we talked about what is American literature in the first place. And for our friends who are not from literature background, we in fact started with what is literature, what is American literature. We talked about major themes. We talked about Age of Reason, Revolution, Romantic Age. And then during this, we also talked about the Puritans and the other religious groups. Then we talked about fiction. Talked about our favorite short story writer, Edgar Allan Poe. We took one of his stories, and then Fall of House of Usher. We talked about the themes. Then we talked about Hemingway. We talked about Faulkner, talked about contemporary fiction. Then we went to poetry, talked about two very great poets of poet and the poetess of America, Walt Whitman and then Emily Dickinson. We talked about what they wrote about, what are the themes. And then we talked about a little bit of, Frost and then Wallace Stevens, I think. We talk about those people. Now, poetry is one of those things which can be kind of like, a tough cookie for the exam. Okay. Why? Because poetry cannot be taught in the first thing. And the second thing is it is a little complicated because it depends on your interpretation of the poem, right? And the third thing is it's not a story most of the times. Okay. It has a lot of figurative language. It has a lot of similes. It has a lot of metaphors. It has a lot of other stuff. It's not a straightforward story, right? If you get a question about, the Fall of House of Usher, you probably can write because you know the story and then you can come up with the themes. Poetry is not like that. So the second one that I would really want you to concentrate on is poetry. Now, I'm not asking you to write poems in the exam. Please don't do that, because more often than not, we will mess up something or the other. We will, all of us, not just you, but then all of us will mess up something or the other. We will miss a word or whatever there. So don't write the poems. Don't try to write the poems. That is not necessary at all. Don't try to mug up the poems. That is not necessary at all. What is more important is, like, your course only talks about Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson for the major part from a poetry side. Try to find out what the themes are. Okay, we've already discussed those, but then in the book also they are listed. Try to find out what the themes are that these authors have written about or poets have written about. Then you just have to, kind of sort of remember 2 or 3 of their poems, and then what the poem talks about. I think your course book talks about 1 poem from Whitman and 1 poem from Dickinson, and then it is analyzed. Now, what makes it tough again is, like I said, the figurative language, right? So they use a lot of metaphors, they use a lot of similes, they compare something with something, and then, you'll have to remember that. So this might be, for most people, this is a tough chapter or block, okay? So again, my request is concentrate on block 1 and block 3 for sure. These are the only 2 blocks that require you to read multiple times. Everything else you can read once and then that should kind of sort of be okay. But poetry is something that you'll have to read again. Okay. Anyway, block 4, we talked about drama. This is again a very short block because there's nothing much to talk about in American drama because it has a very small history. Talked about Eugene O'Neill. Desire Under the Elms, we talked about that play, talked about Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman. We did not get time to talk about, some more contemporary ones, Tennessee Williams and others, but that's okay. I mean, you have it in your book. You can always read that. Then we ended with block 5, which is the recent trends. We talked about women's voices. We talked about African-American literature, Jewish writing. Now, these 3 things are, again, like I said, vast topics, but because of the lack of space and time, probably you only have hardly like 20 pages in your book dedicated to these 3 units. Again, I would request you to just go either Google or go to YouTube or whatever is your favorite app. Just go there and then look at these 3. More importantly, women's voices in African-American literature. Jewish literature, again, as good as it is, and then as rich in history as it is, there's not much when compared to African-American literature and women's voices. So go ahead and then look at those 2. And then, like I said, read the book once. You will remember most part of it. Poetry might be a little tough and the introduction might be it might take some time. Do that. And then if you still have questions, like I said, you're more than welcome to, send me a message on that WhatsApp group that we have. And then I'll try to respond to you as soon as possible. Again, I'm not sure when your exams are or anything of that sort, but any time is fine. All right. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So very quickly, it's 1 o'clock. I'm kind of sort of thinking I'll end at like 1:10 or so. You will have a good break. Today is your last class, right? We don't have anything tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir. Last class.
Okay. Okay. So we still have like five or so minutes. So if you have anything to say, please feel free to do so. If you think these classes, and I'm talking very specifically about American literature classes, I'm not referring to any other classes of your MA first year. If you think these classes could have been better in some way, please feel free to let me know. Again, I know most of you are also teachers, so I hope all of us have learned something from this course, in addition to getting some teaching pointers or whatever. So your feedback is always welcome. Don't think that it's a one-way thing. That's the expectation that we have set at the starting of the course. Right? It's always two-way. So I have learned as much as you have learned, hopefully, from me. So if you want to say something, go ahead. Yes, Afroz.
Sir, if the question is asked like this, discuss literary forms of Native American literature, we have to talk about the drama and the stories, all about that only, sir.
Correct. So you have to talk about the narrative ways. Okay. So you'll have to talk about the song. You'll have to talk about, like you said, the hymns. You'll have to talk about, what's it called? Something drama, right?
Yes, sir. Poetic drama.
Poetic drama. Yeah. We'll have to talk about those. Only that. Yeah. If the question is phrased in the way that you have phrased it, only that.
And one more question is given in the paper 2016, sir.
Okay.
Write about the local color writing, sir.
The local color writing basically is, I think we were talking about it. Hold on. Let me just, I'll explain to you what local color is, but then I think we talked about in probably 20th century, somewhere in 20th century, we should have talked about it. And in drama, actually. Probably when we were talking about realism. But anyway, I'll tell you the page number later, Afroz. But then local color basically is, when we were talking about realism, right? What is realism? Realism basically is a realistic representation of life or arts, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what does that mean? Now, let's take India as a whole, right? What is realism for India? We don't have anything specifically that we can say realism for India. Why? Because we have multiple groups living in India who have their own realism, right? for lack of a better word, quote unquote. Now, what does that mean? Let's say I'm living in Hyderabad. Okay, I will talk about my Hyderabadi culture, and then what is it meant to be Hyderabadi, and then the local stuff. Okay, that's my local color, right? Now let's say you are from some other place. Let's say you are from Kerala. Okay, you will not talk about Hyderabad. You will have a different local color, right?
Yes, sir.
You will not say biryani is the best. That is as a Hyderabadi, I will say that, but you will say something else, right? You will say backwaters of Kerala are the best. The local color is different, Hannah?
Yes, sir.
Now you have a local color, I have a local color, Anjum has a local color, Nagalakshmi has a local color, so on and so forth, right?
Yes, sir.
Now all our local colors together is the local color of India.
Yes, sir.
Right? So from a drama perspective, basically when we talked about realism, what we said is slowly, steadily, people started moving from specific or general things into local colors. So people started talking about their specific state in US, their specific local color, because every state has a different culture. So they were talking about their own culture. And then it kul milake, like you summarize this whole thing, then that's the local culture of America as a whole. Okay, basically local color basically means what it says, local color, local culture. Let me put it that way. Okay? So Afroz's local culture is different from Ashwin's local culture, which is different from Lily's local culture. Right? If we live in different states. Now, if we three are writers, we will talk about our own local culture.
So if asked in the exam, then what we should write?
What is the question again? How is the question phrased?
Write about the local color writings.
Okay. Then basically you will have to talk about, the starting of American drama. Okay. And then let me see which page that is in. Okay. Hold on for 1 sec.
I believe it's more about American history, the literature, how it started, and then the drama, the poetry, the lifestyle, and it's more about American dream.
Well, right. But then, the specific phrase, right, Lily, which says local color, it has been used in a very specific context in the book. That's what I think Afroz is talking about. Page number 170, Afroz and Lily. Go there and then they will talk about local color.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then it says, like I said, realism, right, in American drama. Let me read it out for people who don't have book in front of them. It basically says, in the second half of the 19th century, the pendulum of literary taste swung from romanticism and sentimentalism to realism. It started with some writers giving prominence in their writings to local color, quote unquote. This indicates some particular place or region, its customs, dialect, and characters. Like I said, the local culture. Such local color authors flourished in New England, in south and far west. And then there's a big paragraph, but then that's basically what they're talking about.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And I'm sure that was a short answer question, right? Not a long answer question.
And one more thing, sir. Discuss the use of classical myths in desire under the M's.
Okay.
And to that, the relevant answer, I think it's given like Greek myths in this play.
Yes, those are the ones. It talks about, I think, 3 myths, right? The Oedipus myth, the Phaedra myth, and then there will be one more.
Media,
those are the
media.
Yes.
And this can be written in same as Greek myth is same as classical myth, sir?
Yes. In this context, they are.
Acha. Sure, sir. Thank you.
Sure.
Sir.
Yes, Isha.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, sir, for for all the classes. Actually, your classes are...
Isha, 1 sec. Huh? And some of your voice is break. I think there's a network issue on my side. Hold on for 1 second. Huh? Ishrat, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just want to thank you, sir, for these classes. Your presentation, your speaking, way of speaking, and your command. Everything is perfect to hear the class, and we are active in your class. So just want to thank you, sir. I feel very good, and all about the topics, whichever you means whatever the topic you choose, you gave all the presentation like themes, everything. So I feel very good after joining this session. They're all I always wait for your class. I never miss your class. So because your explanation, the way of your explanation is very good. So I feel if we get more of the classes, it means we'll get more of the knowledge.
Wow, thank you. I don't know what to say.
Of course,
thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you, Afroz. Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, like I said, it's always a two-way thing that has to happen in the classes. Gone are those days where, a lecturer just speaks and then the students just listen, and it's that one-way thing, right? Kind of those days are always gone. I mean, already gone. We are already in the place and time where we'll have to learn from each other. But your words mean a lot. Thank you very, very much for that feedback.
Yeah, actually, I always appreciate, sir. I after every class, I want to tell you that thank you word is not only sufficient for your class, because we always feel good. We are active. We are trying to give answers. It's almost in your class only. I'm not just telling about other classes, but for me, your class is special for me to learn, to encourage for myself. To myself.
Thank you very
so
much,
sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot. Means a lot. Okay, I see Ayman. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Please excuse me if I'm not, but Ayman has a question in the chat box. I will quickly read it out. Can you explain again how to write prose and poetry, and how to write like introduction, content, and summary or conclusion like this? I mean, how should I start to write? So Ayman, you're still on the call, right? You didn't drop off. Ayman, you there? Okay. So it actually, let me put it in 2 different ways. Okay. One is it depends purely on the type of question that is being asked in the exam. Okay. Be it prose or poetry or whatever, my approach is usually generic to specific. Okay. That is the one that I'll always remember. You will start with a very generic introduction. Like, for example, let's take poetry. Okay. And then they say, discuss about Emily Dickinson's contribution to American poetry, or Whitman's, excuse me, let's say Whitman. Okay, he's written more. So if a question is like that, right? If it's framed like that, phrased like that, then I would start with Walt Whitman. If I can remember his dates, I will put it. Please don't put the wrong dates. I've seen, some answer scripts where they've missed the whole century. Okay. They've said Frost belongs to 17th century or 16th century or something. Please don't do that. If you know the dates, then that's good. If you don't know, that is also okay. Okay. You don't have to remember every single author's dates. That is okay. But what is more important is start with Whitman, start with his general themes. Okay. And then go into a specific poem. Take any of his poems. Okay. He's written tons of poems. From Leaves of Grass, you take any of his poems. You can take "Oh Captain, My Captain," he's written elegies for Lincoln, like we have discussed in the class. I mean, I'm not sure if you have attended that class, but take any of his poems and then start to explain, a little bit about the themes that you have talked in the first paragraph, because the first paragraph should always give you the general themes. Then you go into the specific themes. Then you end with, like you said, right? You've beautifully said summary or conclusion. Your conclusion should say whether you think Walt Whitman was a great poet, or you don't think that he was a great poet. Okay, it is okay if you say Walt Whitman was not a great poet, but you will have to corroborate that answer with some kind of facts. Okay, you cannot just say, I don't like Walt Whitman, that's why he's not a great poet. We cannot say that, right? Now the whole world is saying Walt Whitman is a great poet. So, if we go against it, that is fine, but we'll have to corroborate. Like I said, we'll have to give proper facts, right? So you conclude in like maybe very short paragraph. I will not write anything more than four or five sentences in my concluding paragraph. Okay. Why? Because first thing is, you'll have to remember that the examiner is not going to read every single word. Why? Because the examiner is also a human being, and then they will have to evaluate tons of papers, right? So they will keep looking for keywords. And like I said, if the question says Jewish American writing, my eyes automatically look for Malamud, Bellow, and Philip Roth. Okay, my eyes search for these words in your answer. Okay, so be very careful on what you write. It doesn't matter if you're writing 1 page or 25 pages. I think you have like around 25 pages in your answer script. There is not a compulsion to fill all 25 pages. Don't write any extra information. Be up to the point. But the way you put it in the chat box, right? That seems good to me. Introduction, where you talk about the generic stuff. Then you go into the specific stuff, and then end with a conclusion or summary. Does that make sense, Eamon? Okay, great.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
anything? Yes.
One more question is given in July 2019's paper, sir.
Mm-hmm.
What are the different ways of reading Moby Dick?
Okay. You tell me, what are the different ways of reading Moby Dick? What do you think? How differently can you read? Any ideas, Afros?
I didn't get that question at all, sir. That's why I'm asking you.
Acha. Okay. Okay. What they are asking is, now Moby Dick is a novel, right? Now, they are basically asking, the story. Can that story be read in different ways? Okay. Now, what does that mean? One way, let's say my way of reading it is that Ahab is a stupid. Okay, that is my way of reading it. Why? Because he is going against nature. He's going and then killing that. He wants to go and kill that whale just because it ate away his leg and whatever. Right? That is my reading. Hannah. Now Lily comes across and then she says, "Fine, Ashwin, that is one way of reading it." But then Lily's way of reading is Ahab is a hero. Why is Ahab a hero? He has the guts to go against a white whale. Or whatever whale that is. He has the guts, so he's a hero, right? He's going against nature. This guy has, that tendency to go against the nature. He is a hero because he's formed a team, and then he has motivated the whole team to go onto the open seas and then fight. So for Lily, Ahab is a hero. Okay. For Afroz, she can say you both are fine, but then for me, this story has nothing to do with Ahab at all. It has everything to do with the whale. It has everything to do with that perception that nothing can go against the nature. Be it Ahab, be it Behab, it doesn't matter. Nothing can go against the nature. If something goes against nature, nature will, mercilessly, devastate that, whatever, right? So that's your reading, right? So based on what theme you're thinking about, you can read that story in a different way. Correct?
Sir.
Yeah. So now there are different ways of looking at it also. Now, sometimes people who talk about literary criticism, especially, how they look at it is they look at it through a lens. Okay, what does that mean? Now, I can look at it from a feminist lens. I think you mentioned, Afroz, you mentioned in one of the classes that there are 0 women characters in Moby Dick.
Yes, sir.
Right. So from a feminist lens, that is problematic for me. Right.
Yes,
so it depends on what lens you're looking at. So that can also be one way of differentiating between one opinion and another opinion. Right? So it depends on how you frame your answer. That's pretty much. You can write it in any way, actually.
Okay, sir. Understood. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Afroz is not letting me give you a good break, huh? No, I'm just kidding. It's good. All good questions, Afroz. Very good questions. Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for me?
I'm not sure if it is related to American literature, but then this is something related to British literature. Paradise Lost. Any suggestions about this particular poem? It's very long. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
It is very long. Yeah, I am totally with you on that. But then I'm not sure what is written in your British literature book. Actually, I've not read the course material for British literature. Even in the book, is it pretty long, or have they taken sections of it and then kind of summarized?
The entire thing is there, but when I started searching about it on YouTube, it's been, what do you say? It has been summarized in 4 or 5 volumes. So, in a nutshell, what would you suggest as? It's something.
I would basically say, when Milton wrote it, wrote it as books, right? So there's book 1, book 2, book 3, whatever, right? So for me, right, I would just take the most important books, like, that Satan's speech is written, right, somewhere. And I don't know which book it is written, but then, that Satan's speech is there, where he, he becomes one of these great leaders, and then he says, we'll all go against God. And then he has his minions with him and everything, right? So some important or very basic, very crucial events are there all along the poem, right? So I would just take those major things and then summarize only those, because like you said, Lily, I mean, it's so huge that if you start explaining every single line of Paradise Lost, then that's a course in itself, right?
Yes.
It's not just one answer. Forget about 25 pages. You need 2,500 pages to write it. So I would just pick and choose what are the most important ones. And like you said, there are tons of YouTube videos which will tell you a very brief summary. They don't go into length on explaining every single thing on Paradise Lost, right? But I know I promised you, I will look through something and then send you a very small summary of, the most important stuff, and let me know if that helps. If that doesn't help, we can take it forward from there. How does that sound?
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will try to do it in this week. I know, I'm sorry, I've been busy, so I couldn't get to it, but I'll definitely do it this week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? Afroz, any more questions?
discuss three recurring themes in American literature and show the interrelationship. Means what we have to write. I didn't understand the question. So interrelationship between the recurring themes.
And can you repeat that, Sai Lakshmi? What is that?
Discuss three recurring themes in American literature and show their interrelationships.
And show their what?
Interrelationships.
Oh, interrelationship. Okay. Like we discussed, right? Alienation is one of the themes, one of the very prominent themes, right?
Yes, sir.
You can talk about alienation and then immediately you can talk about isolation.
Isolation. Okay.
Right? Now, these are obviously interrelated, right? Alienation basically says you don't belong, or you feel that you don't belong to that particular situation that you're put in. Isolation basically is, you are alienated from everybody and then you're experiencing isolation. These both are related, right? So you can pick one or how many did it say? Three. Okay, yeah. You can pick up alienation, you can pick up isolation, and then you probably can kind of sort of pick up crime and violence and then say, from an immigrant perspective, you experience alienation, you experience isolation, and crime and violence is probably the reason why you experience this. I'm not saying that's the only reason. It's probably why you experience this. So you can basically relate these three things and then write about that.
Okay, sir.
Or you can talk about, the first three, right? Wandering heroes. You can talk about wandering heroes. And then what are these wandering heroes doing? They are going through adventures, right?
Yes, sir.
Which is our next theme. So you can relate wandering heroes to adventures. And then, you can relate it to pioneers and resourcefulness also. So you have 4 themes that are related. So you can pick and choose.
Okay.
Sir, my last question is, are you in our MA English group, sir? Just if we get any doubt, can we ask in the group? Just want to know whether you are in the group.
Just that I'm not sure I'm in one group, Ishrat. I'm not sure which group that is actually. There's one group that I'm part of. I think, let me tell you the title of that. 1 second. Huh?
English in India image is there, sir. Map
right. There is a kind of like a magenta background with India map.
Yeah, pink color.
MA English first year 2021
to 23. Yes.
I'm part of that group. So, but my request is just if you have questions directly for me, right? Just say, Ashwin, can you answer this question?
Okay, sir.
Just mention my name so that I know that it's for me, right?
Okay, sir.
Because I'm sorry to, again, agree to this, or I'm shamelessly saying it, but I'm very bad at, looking at WhatsApp messages. Unless I see my name in it, I think it is for somebody else.
Okay, it's fine, sir. Just want to know whether you are there.
If you have any questions, please feel free. It's totally okay. Yes, I'm part of that group.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, anything else, folks, from anybody? It's your last class, so I know that you want to, log off and then probably enjoy the rest of your time. But, okay, somebody is asking Sayeda Atiya something. Hold on for 1 sec. Sayeda Atiya Mumtaz is asking, please send me the group link. Sayeda, can you please message individually to either Lily or somebody, and then they can send you the group link, please? Send your number to them, and then they can send you the group link. Okay, excellent. So thank you all for your very patient listening and your participation. It's not just one side. You have all not only been very good listeners, but also very good in contributing to the discussion, which is the best part of this course, as I enjoyed it thoroughly. I mean, I'm not even, trying to patronize or anything. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Your participation is very, very well appreciated. I wish this was offline. I've met some of you when we had our offline classes, but I would love to see you all sometime, maybe during the exams or later. But your participation actually made online classes also very engaging, which is the best part. And again, like I said, I hope you have learned some new things. I have got excuse me, I have got personally things to think about American literature. Together we have come up with themes and everything. So that's some great perspectives to discuss. Again, thanks for joining the class, and I wish you all the very, very good luck for your exams. Please reach out to me. Okay. Sayeda, I'll send your number. Okay, I've copied your number. I'll send your number. Oh, she sent it to everyone. Lily, can you please do me a favor and then add Miss Sayeda to the group, please? She sent her number in the chat box. Okay, Lily is not here, I think.
Sir, I will send her the link.
Achha, theek hai. Thank you, Ishrat. So Ishrat will send you the link and then you can join. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody. Take your very short 3 minutes break and then get ready for your next class. And again, good luck. And then we'll definitely meet again. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, sir.